Welcome, everybody, and welcome to my special guest, Paul DeMark. Hi, Paul.
Hi. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing good. You have a great face for radio.
Well, I guess we're going to be on YouTube too, so
Yeah, so
I'm glad I wore my favorite black sweater.
Yeah, I dressed in man gray black as well. Great to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I came over wondering what am I going to talk to Paul about? So let's just talk to Paul about Paul. Tell me the Paul story. How did you wind up in Humboldt?
Okay. Well, it was through music. I came out on tour to San Francisco when I was 21 with a Chicago blues piano player named Sunnyland Slim,
Yeah.
who was part of creating the Chicago blues sound. He was 65. He's someone that went back to the early 40s, had given Muddy Waters his recording career start, backing him up, played with all the primary Chicago blues people, toured with Howlin' Wolf, everybody that was back there, had his own bands, made his own records. Anyhow, a good friend of mine, Harry Duncan from, we met in Madison, Wisconsin, and then he asked me if I wanted to go out on tour with Sunnyland in 1972.
And you're 21.
I was 21.
Wow.
I was very inexperienced. I didn't start playing till I was 19, and I dropped out of University of Wisconsin-Madison after my junior year because I was so, I had gotten so much into the drums that I figured I needed to drop out to really learn, to find a teacher and devote myself to it for a few years to see if I really had the talent. So I dropped out, and I'd probably played a handful of gigs, but he was booking Sunnyland. He was helping various blues musicians to get gigs, and he was especially trying to help Sunnyland. So he ran into Mike Bloomfield, the great Mike Bloomfield, of Paul Butterfield, Electric Flag, and Bob Dylan fame.
And they're all New York people, right?
No, they're Chicago.
Bloomfield as well?
Yeah. He grew up in Chicago, and when he was a teenager, he started going to the South Side and playing with people like Sunnyland. So my friend Harry asked him, but this is 1972, so he was very famous at the time. He lived in Mill Valley, he'd moved out. And he asked him if he would play guitar with Sunnyland and his band to help him get gigs around the Bay Area for a month, of 1972, November 1972, excuse me. And so that's how I got out here. He said, let's go. We drove 2,000 miles and arrived in the Bay Area and played with Mike probably 4 shows a week. And then, so now it's December and we're still playing around the Bay Area. Well, Sunnyland went back to Chicago in the middle of winter, the beginning of winter, and I decided I was going to stay. My friend Harry and I would stay in California. So I lived in the Bay Area for the next 2.5 years, was playing with blues people like Luther Tucker and Dave Alexander, and put together a band with people that I met, a rhythm and blues band. The bass player in the band, Jerry Cooper, he met a woman there, Karen. They came up to Fortuna, got married.
Fortuna?
Yeah, he was from there. He grew up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so I came up for the wedding, and then about 2 months later, he called me and said, Karen and I are putting together a country band, and we have 6 months of guaranteed gigs every Friday and Saturday at the Rendezvous Lounge in Rio Dell. And
I've never heard of that. I've been here a long time. The Rendezvous Lounge.
Yeah, it burned to the ground.
Downtown Rio Dell.
Yep, right on Wildwood Avenue.
How about that?
And so, it was guaranteed money, $50 a night, and I could get unemployment. And I thought, well, I'm kind of struggling in San Francisco. I might just give it a try. And if I don't like it, I can always move back.
Move to the country.
Yeah. So that's how I got here.
Did you live in Fortuna?
I lived in Rio Dell for about 9 months.
Wow.
And then moved to Arcata.
How about that?
Yeah.
And so you got into music, then carried that career over into Arcata and
exactly
Arcata Eureka.
Yeah, I had about 7 months. The band that I played with was called the Coopers, and then I looked for another band, and I had been playing on jam nights at Harvey's Club, which was the corner of 36 and 101. It's no longer there because the freeway overpassed.
Right.
But it was a very happening, wild True honky
remember
tonk.
that. It was
Yeah.
a little bar kind of a
Right on the corner, right on 101.
Harvey's.
Harvey's Club, yeah.
Huh.
And it was a really wild, true Humboldt County honky tonk. I played with guys quite a bit older. They were called the Sons of Redwood Country, and I played there Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, and did that for about 7 months. By then, I was living in Arcata, and after that, then I was in Northern Humboldt, mostly for the rest of my career.
Sure.
Yeah.
You live here in Eureka.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Let me just point out for our listeners and watchers, that's right in here in Humboldt County. That's where it's vaguely funny when I do this and I point out the map so they can get a geographic. So I'm not sure if I met anybody that's played it as I perceive as many bands as you have. So if there was a number, what would your dart throw be? Have you done over 100 bands?
Not quite. That's an interesting question. I wondered if you'd asked me that. No, a few weeks ago, someone asked me how many bands I'd been in. So I thought for a couple of weeks, and every day I would come up with other bands. I have a pretty good memory of my own personal timeline. And I came up with 81.
81, that's a lot.
That is a lot.
Wow.
Yeah, I first thought, well, it's probably 40 or 50. But I defined it as a playing with a band that played a public performance, not just a jam session.
Sure.
And, I had some longevity with bands like Caledonia. We played for 7 years. The Delta Nationals played for 18, but I was always being asked to do, one-night things. And sometimes I would be asked to play and have 3 bands in one night that I'd never met before, but we played it for a benefit at the Bayside Grange.
So just sit in and go for it.
In fact, last night we were... The Appliances, one of the bands I was in 89 to 92 with Fred Neighbor and Joyce Howe, Gary Davidson, Jeff Landon, Brian Hurleman. And so we're reuniting to do a benefit for Del Arte on Saturday, February 10th at the Carlo Theater.
Coming up.
Yeah. And so we were just talking about things, and Fred said, "Do you remember the Rockabilly Mimes?" And I said... Wow. And he said it was a trio that Fred and I and Gary Davidson played in. And I said, how many shows did we do? He said 2. I said, we'll have to add that to the list. So
yeah, that's
80. I went from 80 to 81 right there.
You bumped up one.
But I wrote them all down, and
wow.
It was fun just to realize and I counted like because in my 20s my friend Harry Duncan was asking me to go on the road and play many tours with Chicago and Texas blues musicians.
Wow.
While I was living here. And so I would either 6 weeks to maybe even just a weekend. Like I went to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival and played with Sunnyland there, and had Charles Neville on sax from the Neville Brothers, and did 5 gigs in 3 days.
Wow.
Played a 6-week tour on the West Coast with Howlin' Wolf's guitarist, Hubert Sumlin, and Paul DeLay, a harmonica player from Portland. So I had these stints. I played at the Monterey Jazz Festival Blues Afternoon with a great Texas guitarist named Albert Collins, the master of the Telecaster.
He's great.
So I had all these opportunities, and I did that, a few times a year while I was playing in local bands like Caledonia. So those were bands that I also counted if there was a changeover in the bands, So it's been a really rich musical life for me here.
Yeah. So let's talk about Humboldt and your experience here as it relates. So I'm going to ask kind of a 3-part question, and we'll cycle back. But so what do you see? And this is the question Joni fed me. Thanks. My wife's way smarter than me. Married up like some of us.
Yes.
So early in the music scene here, when you got here, 70s, 80s, what was that about? What's it been in the middle, and what's happening now in terms of things that strike your fancy you'd want to comment on? So how is the music scene in Humboldt County different, say, 40 years ago, or upon your arrival? It seemed like there's a lot of musicians that are really quality now.
Right.
I think at Caledonia, they were still legendary.
Well, the biggest change, as soon as I started branching off and I started going to college at the Redwoods and taking jazz improv classes, and then I started going to Arcata and meeting with Fred and Joyce and doing jam sessions at the Jambalaya, I quickly realized this was a mecca for musicians. there are so many really high quality musicians, from jazz to country to soul, blues, rhythm and blues. And there were so many clubs here. That's the big difference.
Oh.
There still are a fair amount of venues here, but back then it was exploding with venues. There were, a dozen places in Eureka.
How many bars in Arcata back in the day?
Arcata had, obviously more music venues than now. And there were places that the Den and places that I didn't play, but people could play 5 or 6 nights in a row.
Wow.
And so it was more because you didn't have the internet, you didn't have streaming, and people would go out. That was their entertainment.
Right.
And so when I was in Caledonia, right now, like when I do shows, it's almost always a one-night stand. I'll play a Saturday at the Speakeasy in Eureka, or we played last Friday at the Basement in Arcata with the Big 8. And so it's pretty much just one-night things. Whereas back then, there was such a demand where people go out even during the week. The Basement was called Bret Hart's. We'd play, Caledonia would play Wednesday through Saturday. The Jambalaya, we'd play Friday and Saturday. Mad River Rose and Blue Lake, Friday, Saturday. The Old Town Bar and Grill, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
I was going to bring that up. That's a big venue. That was a huge venue.
So, we were playing 3 or 4 times a week. And now it's not like that. It's all one-night stands. So you could, I was actually making a living in my 20s. I mean, I wasn't married. And could actually pay my bills. And I'd have part-time jobs, like working at the Works record store. Things like that. But I think that's the biggest change, is that people don't go out as much. And there's not as many music venues, but there's still the same, to me, same amount of really high quality musicians here. And they're always looking for places to play. And it's just back then there were more of them. But there's still, this is a place, some places are theater places like Ashland. This is a music town.
Yeah, it has been.
Yeah.
So something occurs to me. You know what's different between an old athlete and an old musician?
No.
It's like it's set up. This is set up for a really funny joke, which is I see old musicians that still got it.
Yeah.
A 40-year-old, Tom Brady isn't that great anymore in football. But a lot of musicians season with their art.
Absolutely. There's many musicians, they're playing into their 90s.
Yeah.
But, there's not much, obviously it's not as physically demanding. And for drummers, it's physically demanding.
Yeah.
But, it's for someone like me, it's more in my fingers and my wrists and arms.
So joints.
And my feet. So, it's, there's so many musicians that last a long time. I played with this great, and there's a joy to it that I think helps people to have a sustained career. Like Hubert Sumlin was one of the most joyful musicians that I played with, and he was Howlin' Wolf's guitarist, an incredibly influential blues guitarist. People like Eric Clapton looked at him as their musical hero.
Wow.
And so I had a chance to play with him for 6 weeks, and I spent a lot of time with him because he was very funny and very affectionate. And one time he looked at me after a gig and he said, Paul, you keep playing music, it'll make you beautiful.
Wow.
And because he was beautiful when he played.
He meant it.
He meant it. Oh, yeah. He'd be on stage, and he was like mid-40s, and he looked so happy on stage, I would look at him and think, this guy has become someone that's about 25.
Yeah.
So it's, I think anybody that does something and has tremendous joy, I think it helps keep you young if that joy kind of permeates your whole body and being.
Never connected that. I love it. So there's a preservative effect.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, you die in a hotel room at 28 in Florida or wherever.
Right.
Wherever all the
27-year-old.
27-year-old.
27 was the year that Janis and Hendrix. Jim Morrison.
I think Tommy Bolin, the guitarist, died pretty young too.
Yeah,
from
he
James
did.
Gang and Deep Purple. He's from my hometown in Sioux City, Iowa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was quite a guy. I wish you could have stuck around. But so one kind of one night stands now. So the audience and the participation, their consumption's different.
I think so.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And obviously COVID has affected things.
Oh my gosh.
Even now it seems to be there's a kind of resurgence right now in COVID. So there's many people that just won't go out to a really crowded small club for sure. What was a benefit of COVID is that more venues, obviously during COVID, went outside.
Yes.
So many more outside music venues, and that's continued to this day. It's a little tough in the winter, but there still are some that are outdoor venues.
Yeah,
and
we really like that. Eat outside. Just wherever you travel, there's like some sort of outdoor something now, which is
more than ever. And there's you got Mad River Brewery. That's an outdoor thing.
Mm-hmm.
Six Rivers Brewery in McKinleyville.
Mm-hmm.
They created a deck with a roof on that is an outdoor area that people play.
Mm-hmm.
So,
how about the winery in Philbrook?
Yeah,
that's a nice stage out there.
Yes, it's fantastic.
We became members this year.
Oh, did you?
On account of Pam, yeah.
Pam's my wife, Pam Long. She was a general manager.
She did a great job. And you were in charge of music all this year.
Yes. Judy Hodgson hired me to book all the bands every Saturday and Sunday, 1:30 to 4, and we did 10 Thursday evening shows from 5:30 to 8, and had a wide mixture of.
You did. It was pretty eclectic.
Early jazz to citizen funk, and even a couple Grateful Dead oriented bands. So people love the outdoor venues around here now.
Grateful Dead in Humboldt County. Let me just point out Philbrook for our fans that here's Arcata. Here's Philbrook. It's actually on the map. Look there, Nick. See it?
Yeah,
Philbrook.
It's
it could be nice out there. It could be in the 80s or 90s in the summer.
Yeah, once July hit, June last year, we had a June gloom for the entire month.
It was weird.
All the way out to Willow Creek. But then July hit, and so it was hard to get people to come out because it was too cold.
Yeah.
But then July hit, and everything warmed up, and crowds loved coming out there. Mm-hmm. Even Philbrook Market has an outdoor venue. They're kind of, right now, they're closed, trying to see what they're going to do. They're not sure they're going to continue.
Just read that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's one significant change. There's a lot of outdoor venues now.
Let's talk about festivals for a sec. So bigger things that have happened over the years between Blues Festival, Jazz Festival, other things that come to your mind. What, Paul, what's been the success stories there that have maybe made their mark or can one day?
Well, obviously the Blues by the Bay had a great run.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the years. I would say probably all through the early 90s, probably to 2005, 10 to 15 year run. That was a great venue down at Halverson Park by the Bay, and that was a great festival.
That's where Sarah Bareilles played with Huckleberry Flint and everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's been great. The Redwood Coast Music Festival, we just celebrated our 31st or second year. We took 2 years off from COVID. I think it was the 32nd year.
Are you a board member?
I'm a board member.
Say we.
I help publicize the festival.
Super successful, right?
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
And it's changed over the years. It was when it started, so I think it started in 1990. It was the Dixieland Jazz Fest. And then it became the Redwood Coast Jazz Festival. Mm-hmm. And now it's known as the Redwood Coast Music Festival because, the crowd was getting older and it's still very much a dance-oriented festival. Mm-hmm. But now it's expanded to be Eureka's American Roots Festival. So there's everything from early jazz like Dixieland through Rockabilly, Zydeco, Cajun, Western swing, Chicago blues, Texas blues. So it's expanded to include all those kinds of roots American music. Mm-hmm. And it's going strong. We had 7 stages. It's all based in Eureka. Mm-hmm. And turnout's great. People come from all over the West Coast. Some people come from around the country because it's kind of unique right now. A lot of musicians say there's nothing quite like it.
Wow.
Because they come here and meet other musicians and they form bands here, just do one rehearsal and play with them.
Perfect.
But it's still a very strong dance-oriented festival, but there's really, truly great music.
What about Reggae on the River? I mean, that's not happening at the moment, right?
Right.
But that has its own Southern Humboldt. By the way, that's down in here, Reggae on the River.
You're showing our list.
You can't see
our
anything,
viewers.
but it's way off the map over here.
Yeah, it's about, well, it's like,
Garberville.
yeah, Garberville's about 40 minutes south of
Here's Garberville.
Arcata.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
It's down here.
Yeah.
Well,
That
was a big deal.
A great run. I think they're trying to restart it. It started in, I believe, 85 or 86, and had about a 30-year run. And
That brought in a lot of people, right?
oh yeah, people
Yeah.
all over the West Coast, and
It was a
from all
premier
over the country.
reggae show, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it became one the top reggae performers.
Huh.
were playing there.
Yeah.
And I think another festival, one of my favorites, is the Humboldt Folklife Festival.
Yeah. Glad
And
you
that-
brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's now it's based in Blue Lake at the Del Arte School
Mhm.
of Physical Theater, and they have a really cool outdoor stage, amphitheater.
Very nice. Yeah.
Really beautiful, great stage, and then they have a stage on the street, and that thing's been going on. Wow! When I first got here, there was a ranch up on Fickle Hill, Lazy J, I think.
Yep.
Right? Do you know that place?
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they used to have cowboys up there, and it was
Well, they had a
very-
Western town.
Yeah, it was a Western town, and
A rodeo ground.
right,
Yeah.
right. And then they had acoustic bands, bluegrass, and things like that. I'm not even sure they had any electricity, but that's how it started. And then the Humboldt Folklife Society worked with Del Arte and moved it there. So it's been there for probably 30 years now.
Wow. Are you in that board as well?
No.
That's mostly Patrick's been part of that
Patrick
for a long time,
Cleary's been the president for
for a while.
quite a few years.
Yeah. Yeah.
They have a solid base of people that on the board, and they have volunteers, and they work really hard.
They do a great job.
Yeah, they do.
So there's that venue, then Perigo Park in Blue Lake. And do they expand out from there much? I mean, it seems like that's,
Well, they do a
there's
square dance.
other
Yeah,
little things.
old-timey square dance at the Acoustics Vets Hall, but that's all part of the week of the festival. It's a week long.
Right.
It's always, well, it changed. It had always been the second week of July. It moved to the third week of July.
Mhm.
But that's a great festival. They have the music on the bay there at the foot of C Street.
Mhm.
Those concerts they do Thursday nights.
Great point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's happening.
The radio stations sponsored that
Right.
for, what,
Mhm.
15
yeah,
plus years?
Bicoastal Media does that.
Yep.
And
And then Friday night is now a venue.
right, the Friday night market's
Yeah.
going real strong. That's been around about 4 years now.
Yeah.
And then McKinleyville at Pearson Park every Thursday in the summer they have
We love
Thursday
it.
night concerts. So that's
Shout out to
just
McKinleyville.
talking
Yeah.
about it. It just shows how much Humboldt County
Yeah.
audiences love live music,
Yeah.
which is great for a musician like me, because there's an audience that really likes to come out and see live bands. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Azalea Park's fun. We do that. We live in McKinleyville, so it's kind of on the way home, and
right.
we've sat in 40-degree fog and listened to music. It's great. We love live music.
Yeah.
So
you have
Hol-
to wear your layers.
Yeah, it's Humboldt, man. We were layers here. So
That's right.
tell me about the venues that you like to play in terms of sound, or just the vibe, or locally where you feel it's fun.
Well, for me and many musicians, if the acoustics are good,
Mhm.
then you love playing there.
Yeah.
Because when they're difficult, the bouncing, like if everything's live surfaces and everything's bouncing, and it's very hard to
Mhm.
control the sound, and it's it's hard to play music when the acoustics are very difficult.
Huh.
But when they're good, those are the venues I like to play. So
Then it flows.
yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Eagle House. It's a great venue, has a balcony, that ballroom there.
Yeah, I love it.
It's, and it's.
How's the Arkley Theater? Is it sound-wise good?
Let's see. Well, I've never played there,
Okay.
but I've heard sound in there, and Chris
Mhm.
Pereira
Yeah.
is their sound technician at
Yeah.
Lights, and he does a great job. So I think that's a good venue. I think Rangel Town Cider in Arcata. Do you know about that venue?
Absolutely, yeah.
They actually have great acoustics there.
Saw Gary Davidson play there just recently.
Yeah.
You're the second person this week that said those very words. Because it's a cider house that's kind of a warehouse, right?
Yeah, it's where the Machine Works used to be on I Street, across from Hensel's Hardware, and it's a winery production and storage facility for Septentrio and North Story Wines and Rangel Town Cider.
Huh.
But what was fortunate is that Robert Goodman owned that building for many years, and he sprayed insulation over the metal roof.
Oh.
And that made it into a really good acoustic room.
How about that?
You know,
Is he still around?
I think so. He doesn't own it anymore.
Yeah.
But
you got Salt Restaurant, and then what's it called? The Carriage House now?
Yes.
Like the other one, yeah.
Right. But the acoustics in that room are great. So Pat Niddle's the owner of North Story Wines and Rangel Town. So she started doing music there, and I said, this is a great sounding room. So the musicians, if you have a room that sounds good, you want to play there.
Yeah.
The current band, I'm in several different groups, but I'm in this showcase group called the New Pelicans.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 4 of the 5 people who are in the Handshakers. It's an Americana band. And we did our first show there, and I rented a stage, and Chris Pereira did sound. And we love the acoustics in there.
Wow.
So that'll keep bringing musicians and audience members. Maybe they don't quite know why they like it, but often it's because it's a good sounding.
Heard it was a good show. Who's in the band, by the way?
It's Michael Walker on guitar and vocals and songwriting. Mike Bynum, who's plays guitar and sings and writes songs. They're both from the state of Georgia. They came here independent of each other. Gary Davidson on bass. Darren Weiss on mandolin. And myself.
Is he the young guy?
Darren? No.
Who's
you're thinking of the pedal steel player, Alistair.
Maybe.
Yeah, Alistair Page.
Yeah.
But he's not doing this. He's busy with other projects.
Gotcha.
But then we're only doing once a season, and we have a special local guest that we highlight, and we play with that person and they play with us. The first one we did was Turtle from
Is it Barnfire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the next one's going to be Beverly Twist. It's going to be Saturday, February 24th at the Eagle House. And we're excited because she's in Canary and the Vamp. She was in Bells of the Levee. She's specializes in 20s and 30s
Saw
jazz.
her,
Yeah, and Django Reinhardt. So with us, so far we've learned like 4 more Western swing songs. And so that'll push us in a different direction, and then we'll be back in Europe. But the Eagle House is great. I've just played the basement last Friday.
How was that?
And that's pretty good. The acoustics used to be really dead back in the early '80s, but they've changed the carpet on the stage, so there's more life. So it's a much better sounding room.
I love you talking about Brent Hart's.
Remember that?
Yeah, and then it was a Abruzzi.
Right, exactly.
And then, and what was upstairs? Youngberg's?
Yeah, Youngberg's. Yeah.
Gosh, that's all history.
Yeah. We've both been along here long enough to have lived it.
There'll be like 10 people that'll go, yeah, I remember that. Was it Steve Young? Was that the guy's name?
Yes, Youngberg's, yeah.
Yeah.
And, of course, Bill Chino and Chris Smith and Gary Gebhardt.
Great guys.
Yeah.
Funny guys.
Yes, they are.
I walked in their office once and they were just... It was hoots, and they're so funny.
They're very quick.
So today, the Speakeasy is a big venue. It seems like
it's a small room, but a popular venue.
They said the Tuesday Night Jazz is outstanding.
Yeah, it is. They do. It's the Jazz Alley Cats. And they play Tuesdays and Fridays, and they're starting to play at the basement. They're excellent bebop musicians.
Who's the guy that's the tall piano player that plays with them?
Oh, Tim Randalls.
Tim, yeah. He's
pretty. They're the RLAD quartet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we did. I don't want to leave Sohum out of this, but what was the venue down there that everybody
the Mateel
Center?
Yeah, they're still doing music.
Are they?
That's a great venue. And there's there's one on the main drag, Redwood Drive, Stone Junction. Stone Junction, that's what it is.
Huh.
I haven't been there, but they're doing a lot of music there.
But Teal had a big history of like a lot of big names.
Oh,
right,
yeah.
that came through.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Where's
many
Eureka?
reggae.
The Vets Hall in Eureka was known, or the Eureka Auditorium, kind of an echo chamber, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That was what you were talking
the
about.
municipal auditorium.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it can't save that. It's just metal and hard surfaces everywhere. And I played there, and it's just that's a nightmare venue.
How about the Eureka Theater?
Eureka, it has challenges.
Okay.
It does. The Redwood Coast Music Festival is going to working hard with their the board there to do what they can to improve the acoustics.
It needs money to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has the overhang of the balcony.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of challenges. There's potential. I mean, it's the Redwood Coast Music Festival uses it because it's the biggest venue. You know, they use the Adorni, which actually is pretty good.
Huh.
And then the Eagle House is the best, and Red Lion.
What about Warfinger Building? Is that does anybody play music out there?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think
played
so.
there.
Yeah.
I played some, parties, private parties. It's not like a place. I mean, they do mostly private events, but there's, I don't know. They installed a lot of acoustic baffling in there to improve it. So it's pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of open air too. You could see.
Yeah. It's a
around.
great looking venue, and they have worked on improving the acoustics. So it's really pretty good room. Yeah.
So if you were to go out tomorrow night and they were playing, who would you go see? If any band that you're not in, a couple of bands that you'd like to see without offending, friends in the industry, who would you like to see as a 5-band lineup or a 3-band lineup somewhere?
Well, one band I want to see, I'm hoping, let's see, they're going to be the night before New Year's. I guess that's Saturday, right? 30th. Digging Dirt. They're at the Eureka Theater Lounge.
Okay.
And they're a band that's mostly local people that played here. I'm not sure their whole history, but somewhere around 10 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago. And I have never seen them, but I'm well aware of them. And they're playing festivals all over the country.
Wow.
And but this is their home, and so they just come back and do like 2 shows a year.
Wow.
So they're going to be at the Theater Lounge Saturday and then New Year's Eve. So I'm thinking about seeing them. Let's see. I like Object Heavy's a good band to see. I always like to see Home Cooking with Fred and Joyce. There's some other really
great,
cool young, new bands that are on the scene, like Checkered Past, and they're doing like, I saw them at the 4th of July Fest, and they were doing like ska and reggae and soul and funk and really exciting band. Checkered Past, yeah,
nice,
is a new, and I liked Magnificent Sanctuary Band, which does Grateful Dead covers.
Nice.
No, excuse me, they do Jerry Garcia band covers primarily, and they're a really good band. They have great players. I don't want to leave other people out. There's I like everything from, acoustic stuff and Americana to, funk like Object Heavy and, those bands. That's all I can think of at the top. There's
good.
Many others.
Great. Yeah. You're going to leave somebody out.
Yeah. There's many out.
So who have you, when I started thinking about festivals and small things, there's the 4th of July's, both Arcadia, Eureka. There's the Azalea Park thing in McKinleyville. It's you start talking about this, you go, oh, we're heavy music. How about Ferndale? You got the Steeple, the old Steeple.
Yeah, what a great music venue that's become.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah,
so
that's a great room. I played there a couple times with shows with my brother Jeff, and wow, the acoustics there are tremendous.
So is it John Hammond, the producer?
Yeah. He's a producer's son.
Okay.
John Hammond Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah. John Hammond Sr. was a producer. He discovered Bessie Smith, Bob Dylan,
Right.
Springsteen.
He's my great uncle. I'm sorry, that's wrong. I'm lying. We actually do own the Hammond Trail, though. Also,
A distant relative.
also a huge lie. See my nose?
A
It's
very distant relative.
Hammond Lumber.
You try-
That was the biggest redwood lumber company in the world until GP bought it,
Was it?
and they divested it immediately.
wow.
It was an antitrust. They would have had a monopoly.
Oh.
So right on the bay was the most giant redwood monster that ever grew, but no relation. It just disgusts my teenagers when I say things like that. Yeah, hey, Scott Hammond Lumber.
Another band I thought I like, Cadillac Ranch. They're a
Yeah,
great country rock band.
yeah,
That's a good one.
yeah. And then Mad River had that venue still does. I mean, but not as much music, but it was
Yeah.
so regular.
They used to have, I don't know, at least 3 days a week.
Yeah.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I think it's now just 1 day a week.
Yeah,
Fridays. Yeah.
It's still nice to go to Blue Lake if you're freezing in McKinleyville
Yeah,
and it's 70 out there. And
A fun venue. The acoustics are kind of crazy because it's small and people get loud. And there's the Logger.
the Logger.
Yeah, I'm playing there tomorrow with a group I'm in called the Big Eight. But I played with my brother Jeff and a couple other people recently. And
Lager Bar's famous, right?
yeah, it's fun too. The crowd's really, really into it.
Isn't that funny? We've been to Blue Lake 1,000 times, never stepped foot in the Lager Bar.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Our pastor friends last week said, hey, we'll go.
Yeah.
And we got sidetracked, but we're going to go.
Yeah,
It's not too late.
No, come out tomorrow. We're playing the
Yeah.
Big Eight. We have Justin Brown bass player,
Uh-huh.
who I love, from Jenny and David and the Sweet Soul Band, and Jeff Landon on
Yeah.
guitar, and Robert Franklin.
He's Hobart's son, right?
Yes,
Hobart
yeah,
Brown's
he
son,
is. Yeah, he's a really fun, excellent bass player, very versatile.
And, shout out to Gary Davidson for, the 7th time in the interview. But yeah, what a great guy and a great player.
Yes, he is, and very versatile and very much in demand.
Yeah. So who have you seen in Humboldt? And then I'm going to ask you what you see down the road in the future. Who have you seen over the years that out of town, say at the Old Town Bar and Grill, who just blew your socks off? That
Traveling bands, like national bands?
Yeah, I mean Robert Cray or whomever. I mean,
yeah. Well, the Robert Cray was fantastic, and they were based in Eugene back in the mid 70s to the early 80s.
it is a great show.
Yeah, and they would come through about every 6 weeks. They were always fantastic. Etta James was great there. Sam and Dave. I saw Junior Walker and the All Stars.
Wow.
I worked the first 2 years when Deborah Lazio ran it in 1980. I was her assistant. I did
is that
publicity, marketing, and I booked the local acts. And I introduced her to my friend Harry Duncan, who's in the music business, who I mentioned earlier.
Huh.
And I connected her with him, and he had all connections with all the booking agents.
Okay.
At the time, he was managing the Neville brothers.
Very nice.
So
They
he
came
was
here?
extremely well connected, yeah. So she started talking to him, and he was her consultant, and opened doors for her to have the national acts. Los Lobos came the first year we were doing shows.
They're great.
They were it was their first tour of the West Coast. They're $3 there.
And now they're like their 40th year.
50th.
50th. They're playing in Blue Lake, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, obviously the Nevilles were always great there. Junior Wells and Buddy Guy.
Wow. Saw Bruce Coburn there.
Yeah, Bruce Coburn. I saw him there.
He's something.
Yeah.
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 Funny story. So here we go. It occurs to me, it's come to me that we didn't talk about Center Arts yet in Humboldt State. I'm sorry. And the running joke here is, it's not Humboldt State, is it, Nick? It's Cal Poly Humboldt.
Right.
So, and it's right over here in Arcata. Anyway, how old will that joke get?
Well, I graduated from Humboldt State University.
Me too, in 82, dang it, with a degree in liberal arts, recreation administration.
Journalism for me.
Journalist.
Public relations and news. And I was fortunate. I used it for 30 years in my field. So.
Well, with Deborah Lazio and promotion and all.
Well, that was before. I did that before I went to Humboldt. Then when I went there, I thought, well, I know how to get press releases in and work with the media, so I might as well get a journalism degree. And I wanted to work in public relations, but I did the news thing. So
Yeah.
when I graduated, 85, I started working in newspapers. I was down in Garberville at the Redwood Record.
That's right. You were,
And I was at the Arcadia Union for
the Arcadia Union,
managing
yeah.
editor for about 4 years.
Because I worked for the Tri-City Weekly. We were kind of sold at. You were editorial.
I was the managing editor.
That's right. Yeah. Did you ever manage the paper? Were you ever a publisher? That was Judy, right? Or
no. Judy was never
Mr. Hadley.
Yeah, the Hadleys when she was editor, the Hadleys, and then Patrick Odell from Fortuna
Took it over. Yeah.
He bought it.
Mm-hmm.
He owned the Satellite TV Week in Fortuna as well, and the Humboldt Beacon Weekly,
right? And the Redwood Record.
And the Redwood Record. Yeah.
Yep.
So
used to call him Citizen Odell from Citizen Kane.
Yeah.
So real quick, back to the bar and grill, and you connecting Deborah. How did you, Deborah, and Harry get a guy from I-5 to come over 3 hours out of the way to go to the Old Town Bar and Grill? Or how did you persuade bands to kind of, so they're over here on the 5 and we're here on the 101.
I think it was more people coming up or down 101.
Okay. From Oregon.
And then it got, because Deborah really was a great businesswoman. And, to me, it was still the coolest music venue this area's ever seen.
Sure.
Because of the way it was looked, it had the balcony, big dance floor.
Brick everywhere.
You could go all the way to the back of the room, be on couches. It was had these kind of mini environments. You could walk up the stairs and be looking down at the band that were 15 feet away. It had, we always had a sound person, Sean Bohannon, and then Russ Cole started helping him. And Russ is still doing sound. By the way, he travels with Bruce Coburn now.
Oh, that's right.
He's sound man.
Yeah.
But I think it had a great sound in there. She put a thick velvet blue curtain over the windows, and that did wonders. And then having everything mic'd was tremendous. Just the viewpoints from the balcony. It was a great, great venue that had a really good run up until probably the mid to late 90s when Deborah was running it.
With real names. I mean, just hardcore.
Yeah, big names. And local bands. It was always local bands, too. It was always a mixture of, because the local bands, would get paid a decent wage, but, you couldn't do national acts all the time because then you have to guarantee them money. Sure. But, Deborah did really well. We tried to make it so she didn't go too far out on a limb and just built up the club. So then the word gets around to the booking agents, this is a great place to play.
Yeah.
And if you're driving from LA or San Francisco and you're going up to Portland,
it's kind of on
this
the
is
way.
A place to stop.
Yeah. You want to see Humboldt. It's great.
Right. And this is a great venue.
Wow.
They loved it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Center Arts. So let's talk about Humboldt. And they've had a number of people over the years. And Roy did a great job.
Yeah.
What do you comments there? That's been a killer venue.
Yeah. Oh.
Van Dusen must be a good theater to play in.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I played there a couple times.
Are they still remodeling it? I thought somehow I thought they finished, but they're still doing a lot of their acts at the Arkley.
Yeah, I'm going to see the Wood Brothers at the Arkley in March. I don't know. I saw Margot Price not too long ago at the Van Dusen and looked like everything was in place. Yeah, it'd be hard to start this. They've had so many fantastic.
James Brown.
Yeah, I did see him. Ray Charles.
Really? Okay. Bonnie Raitt's played there a couple times, right?
Yeah, it's it's limitless. I saw probably the greatest show I think I've ever seen there. Well, it is for sure. Was the Old Crow Medicine Show.
Oh, I bet.
And love them.
Huh.
I was in the first row. My brother Jeff was in the first row. And it's a curved thing, so he was on the right side. I was on the left. We could see each other.
See him.
But it was just a performance where these, and with the sound was fantastic where we were.
Huh.
And it was they just gave their whole soul to it. It was tremendous. But I've seen a lot of great shows there. Gillian Welch and David Rawlings. I love them.
Saw them there. Yeah. Saw Bruce Coburn there and Beach Boys.
Yeah. That's been tremendous. I mean, it didn't exist when I first got here in 75. I think it started around 77 or 78.
Yeah, they started doing shows when I went to Humboldt.
Yeah.
78, 79.
Right. Yeah. That's my memory of it.
Huh.
So that's a fantastic.
So Robert Cray there. He's quite The Gentleman, and good show.
Right.
We saw a guy named Duran Jones in The Indications.
Oh, I don't know that.
Oh, that was just hardcore.
Yeah.
Newer band, but really good. And so Joni and I are older, and we got good seats, fifth row, and we looked around, and it became a dance party.
Oh.
All the Humboldt State students are going nuts. It's like, oh, this is great. Let's do this. We're not.
Yeah, they don't let them do that much anymore.
Yeah, no, that's probably
people pay a lot of money for seats to see the band.
That's true. We saw Paul Reiser there, the actor.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he does a stand up that's pretty kind of autobiographical and funny, and he's a great guy.
Yeah.
So, what are you seeing down the road for music here in Humboldt? What do you envision the next permeation? What's the next step?
That's a good question.
As the kids say, next level.
Next level. Well, someone that I admire and that really thinks on that level of what's going to be the next level in Humboldt, and is Brian Swislow from Object Heavy, and he's always talking about trying to promote the Humboldt County music scene, and there's they tour, they tour around the country, so they're in a different space than other people. They have a record deal with a company, and so they're trying to make it. But he's always promoting shows, independently, trying his things. I think for some bands that can draw, it's trying to promote your own shows, like I'm doing with the New Pelicans, is trying to approach like a dance concert or sit down concert where you go into venues and say, okay, we'll promote it and let's charge admission. For a while, people weren't charging admission. And now it's starting to come back where people will pay to get in because, it's a way to pay not only musicians, but to pay for door people and some of the overhead at clubs. So they feel like, okay, the band's paid for out of the door. We're not taking it out of our money. Right. I think that's going to continue. And, I do think that outdoor venues are going to be really strong. A lot of bands, they work mostly from late spring into October. But, I think it's always just kind of incremental here. There's a lot of musicians that record and put things out to promote themselves. That's obviously, there's much more of that because it's so accessible. People can have their own studios. Sure. And
the technology's come.
Yeah.
Where you can do your own YouTube channel and stream all day long.
Right. Like, I was talking to Michael Walker and Mike Bynum from the New Pelicans, and I said, as a promotional vehicle, we should record one song and just put it out on streaming services, Spotify, and other things like that, YouTube, Apple Music, because, I've involved in a fair amount of album projects, but now it's like people often just, well, here's our latest 2 songs.
Have a song, yeah.
Because they're not, especially on a local level, they're not going to make any money that way. It's used to interest people in your music. Yeah. And that's a trend that I see that I think more and more people locally are going to do. Just record their music, get it out there quickly. Here's where we're at right now. Yeah. And I think that's what I would like to move to. Like the Handshakers, we did a 10-song CD, but it doesn't seem necessary. Yeah, maybe you don't have to do a full record. You don't. Yeah. Just do a few songs here and there and get them out there. And I think that's exciting. I think Object Heavy has a record label, some independent label, and that's great if you can get to that level. Yeah. Who's the guy also touring? Buddy, the blues. Buddy Reed? Yeah, Buddy Reed. He goes down, he's fun to watch. Yeah, he's very good. He's, he goes back playing with Little Richard. Oh, is that right? Yeah, a group called Bacon Fat. That was a big blues band in the L.A. area in the 70s. But yeah, he played with Little Richard, toured with him. How about that? Yeah. So Richard's still alive? Little Richard? Obviously. No. This was way back. Buddy, way back. So yeah, no. Little Richard perished, right? Yeah. Buddy was playing with him. I don't know. Probably the 70s, early 80s. Back in the day. Yeah, way back. But I think everything, it's always in a state of flux. There's always clubs like they're not going to do music and something else comes up.
Yeah.
Like Septentrio was doing a lot of outdoor shows
Great one.
a year
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
And that was cool.
So the
So,
future has to do with venues too. So
Yeah.
Rangel Town is an unlikely,
mhm,
beautiful discovery. And then
yeah,
Arcata Playhouse, they do it
they do a lot
both-
of shows. Yeah.
both in the creamery and in the tent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's the indoor, outdoor-ish.
Mostly indoors. I played there a number of times. That's a really great venue.
Uh-huh.
So, it's like I'm always, hoping that, in my own way, trying to do shows at these venues just to keep it going. And,
Mm-hmm.
and to find venues there's good acoustics. And if you have a sound man, that you always do it
Sure.
at, the Playhouse and down in Ferndale at the old steeple, you always have sound men there.
Yeah. Paul, is it his name, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that guy.
Yeah.
These guys, speaking of soundmen, these guys, Dick Taylor, Huckleberry Flint claim that Russ is their fifth band member, and they love Russell Cole. I mean,
he's excellent.
he just makes them sharp, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, it's a good sound man. It's just gold.
And another
just golden.
and another nice guy.
Yeah.
He's not, the arrogant artist or anything.
No, you got to work with it's a small community.
It's a small town.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get away.
Jeff Kelly does sound as well as playing 3 or 4 bands, and he's very good. And obviously, Chris Pereira and Tofu, Michael Schwartz, he does good job. And like I said, Chris Pereira. So there's a number of guys that they've actually been able to make a living.
Yeah.
And that's a testament to the music scene. There's enough concert venues that you will hire a sound man.
So is Sam Saphir in that category? He's a local
guy.
He does a lot of sound, right?
He does. He owns a lot of. He's kind of acquired a lot of sound.
He's a PA guy too, right? He's got
absolutely PA and lights.
Okay.
Yeah. And Russ does a lot of work. Like they'll hire Sam's company, and then Russ will work for him.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so Russ is like an independent contractor.
So Russ doesn't have to own $10 million of equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd be remiss to not mention the Brit Festival, which is not here. It's not even in this state, but it's
Jacksonville.
Can I show you on the map?
Sure.
It's way up underneath the curtain.
Yeah.
It's so it's 3 hours away, but it's one of our favorite venues outdoor. And
I know. Spectacular.
Gosh, we see Jackson Brown, the Decemberists. We see Judy Collins and Steve Stills together, and mind blowing. The Hollywood Vampires. Can I tell you about them?
Sure.
Alice Cooper and Joe Perry from Aerosmith. Johnny Depp, the actor, is a grungy metal guitar player, and the guy from Guns N' Roses was the drummer. It was just really just a fun.
There at that venue.
Yeah, it was several years ago, pre-COVID, but they get a lot of really, they've had Willie Nelson. And
it's
Steve Martin.
It's a whole spectrum of stuff.
Yeah,
it's like the Bar and Grill.
Yeah,
or even like Center Arts. I mean, it's a wide spectrum of artists.
Yeah.
I was there. I think I've been there twice, and I saw the last one I saw was John Prine.
Very nice.
And that's a music town too. It's a really small town, but they have 3 different bars that have live bands
Jayville,
in that area.
Yeah.
I like Jacksonville.
Yeah, it's fun going up there. The who did we see that we really liked? Of course. They have a lot of younger bands too. We saw Australian Pink Floyd, not too shabby. It's like it was
there at the Brit Fest?
I've never. And there's Brit Floyd, which has nothing to do with the Brit Festival. It's they're British Pink Floyd, and they were also. I never really go to cover kind of bands, but they were pretty darn good. Yeah. So you're right, and they have a history of a lot of really good shows, and it's as you know, probably not easy to do outdoors.
Well, they have enough money, and they have an overhang. They probably have fantastic acoustics on the stage and great sound equipment and people. Yeah. So that's why it sounds so good there.
John Prine, that's something.
Yeah, it was really nice.
Wow.
That's a great venue, just sitting there on the lawn.
Yeah.
And we were kind of high up, but, they had it together. The sound was really good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just fun. We love to go to Southern Oregon. Yeah. Anything else that you'd like to talk about before we go? Musically or otherwise?
Well, I think I'm always impressed and appreciate the fact that people will go out and see live music here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a small enough community where people know the bands and musicians. There's other places. I'm glad that I wound up here because I've been able to put together bands and join bands and play consistently for 50 years. And it's because of, well, almost, I got here in 75, but because it's a smaller community. It's not like you're in San Francisco having to compete with big acts and, it's things are close. You can pull things together quickly. And, I see so many people, when I was playing with Caledonia with Fred and Joyce, I still see people that they have a very loyal audience. I see people that have been coming out for 40 years. And
see them specifically.
Yeah.
To see,
but they'll come out and see bands that I'm into. And we put together a band. It was a vintage country band that we had in the 90s. And we played the Folklife Festival. We did 2 or 3 gigs called the Country Pretenders. And in the audience, it's like people that I saw at the Jambalaya in 1979. So that's what I really appreciate. And I think people here are music goers. They love to go out and see live music. And that's impressive. And if they don't want to go out to clubs, they'll wait till the weather's nice. But people come out, and it's still amazing to me. And for me, it's been great because I've been able to keep playing shows, and doing some recordings and just having a rich artistic life. And I think a lot of musicians around here and audience members feel the same, that it's a true music county, in my opinion.
I rediscovered that in the last hour. Did you say just now you're 75?
No.
Years old?
No, I'm not.
Oh, I did. How old are you?
I said I moved here in 75.
You were here in 75 because I only have you for like 59 or 60.
Well, that wouldn't be possible, would it?
Yeah, that would be weird.
I'm past 70, I'll say that.
Okay. So you were kind enough, and I'll embarrass you just a little bit, to turn me on to yoga about 6-8 months ago. So every morning, man, I stretch this old carcass.
Are you using the online?
Yeah. Well, I go on YouTube, Adrienne.
Yeah. She's really good.
And there's Mandy. She's the German. And so she's great. She has a whole stretching routine. So, and then,
I'm glad you're doing it.
Yeah. Then there's the chair workout guy now. So you could do the whole chair deal if you're.
I can't even look at that guy.
Yeah. Advanced chair. Yeah. He's like 75 and he's sort of like ripped and he's like
too much.
Oh man, I don't know how to do that. But so one question I ask everybody.
I like to go to a live class over at Hellsport. I'm going to give her a plug. Christine Fiorentino.
Is that Pilates?
No, it's yoga.
It's a yoga class. Yeah. She's a legend.
Vinyasa.
Right? Well, been around for a while.
Very popular, and she does like 2 morning classes and 2 evening classes at Hellsport here in Myrtle Avenue,
right over around the corner.
Right, and I love her classes. But there's a lot of good teachers there. There's good teachers all over Humboldt County. Yoga's huge, and there's private places, and there's Hellsport.
Yeah,
she's just someone I've been going to since 2009. So people find their teacher and they stick with it.
We had Pilates down in Hellsport on the Bay and pre and post hip surgery.
Oh, did you have hip surgery?
Yeah, bilateral 10 years ago last summer. Stanford University Medical.
Yeah,
pretty darn good. One of the best things I ever did.
When you say is it both hips?
2 in the same day.
Wow.
Went to sleep at 1 p.m. and woke up at 10 p.m. and with 2 new hips, and I'm going, let's dance. Let's get some music going.
It's someone, I think I might have told you, like, there was a few years ago, as Arts Alive, and someone introduced me to this guy who was about 10 years older than me, and he got talking about yoga, and I said, yeah, I've been doing yoga since I was 19, and he said, I think it's the number one thing you can do to slow the aging process.
Besides music.
Well,
preservative.
But you need to do yoga too.
Yeah.
You need to do some kind of physical
Maybe
activities.
That explains
you
it.
You need to stretch. You need to do something.
It's 2 things.
Especially with drumming. You have to have your body together, and you can't have a bad back and things like that.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for being here.
All right. Thanks, Scott.
All right. Take care.
You too.